Well, it's my favourite time of the year, deepest winter, and with it, Christmas, a time of peace and goodwill to all men.
Welcome to the party, pal!
And a time, since I was a kid, for movies, both blockbuster and seasonal.
Yeah!
Now, we all have our favourite movies that sum up the spirit of Christmas. But there are other classics out there. Films, although set at or around Christmas, they're not exactly filled with the Yuletide spirit. Their message, however, stays with you long after the credits have rolled. I'm talking about William A. Wellman's 1949 classic, Battleground. So, what did I think? Battleground, the story of the 3rd Platoon of Company I of the 101st Airborne Division, the Screaming Eagles, and its role in the Battle of the Bulge in December 1944. In my review of 12 O'Clock High, I discussed the different approaches the American and British film industries took portraying the Second World War in the aftermath of the Allied victory, with 1949 being a pivotal year at the American box office, seeing not only the release of the aforementioned 12 O'Clock High, but also the iconic Sands of Iwo Jima with John Wayne.
I told you you'd need this bad someday. Thanks, Marine.
And the subject of this review, Battleground. A film that was a smash hit on its release, being the second highest grossing film of 1949, being only beaten by the biblical epic Samson and Delilah.
Drama of the mightiest colossus that ever lived. Samson and Delilah, the immortal story of the strongest man in all history. A masterpiece of big screen entertainment.
And a film that was acclaimed in the press as the first significant war film to be released since the end of World War II. But today, Battleground has faded slightly from popular memory, a victim of its own success, being the first to portray a more realistic view of the American ground war in Europe. Battleground's success is down to a mixture of elements, from directing to performances, but primarily the strength of the Academy Award-winning screenplay by writer Robert Parosh. Parosh had been a screenwriter before the war, working on Marx Brothers comedies such as A Night at the Opera and The Day at the Races.
Mr. Driftwood!
Why, Mrs. Claypool, hello.
Mr. Driftwood, you invited me to dine with you at 7 o'clock. It is now 8 o'clock and no dinner.
What do you mean, no dinner? I just had one of the biggest meals I ever ate in my life, and no thanks to you either.
I've been sitting right here since 7 o'clock.
Yes, with your back to me. When I invite a woman to dinner, I expect her to look at my face. That's the price she has to pay.
But when Parosh was drafted into the army, he found himself in the 35th Infantry Division, which took part in the relief of Bastogne during Christmas of 1944. Parosh kept a journal which was the basis for Battleground, with many moments, such as a young soldier from California seeing snow for the first time.
I never saw snow up close before. It's beautiful.
You didn't by any chance hear that it's kind of cold and a little on the wet side, did you?
To Private Cripps, constantly losing his false teeth.
What are you looking for, Kip? You discharge?
I lost my teeth.
You lost them?
Yeah, they were hurting me on a roadblock, so I put them in my pocket.
And they jumped out?
Dropped out.
I hope it's nice and warm back where you're going.
I can't chew on K-rations with my gums.
Being based on scenes that Parosh witnessed himself. And it is those events and the reality of those experiences that seeps through the pages to the screen. Parosh introduces the platoon and its cast of motley characters through the eyes of replacement Private Jim Layton, played by Marshall Thompson, who will go from naive new guy to battle-hardened veteran in less than 10 days.
Pull up a chair, Holly.
A mixture of characters, from intellectual to farmhand, men who have been fighting too long, and men who would never have met in civilian life, but here are forced to live and fight together, despite the annoying habits and foibles that irritate each other.
That's for sure. That's for dang sure.
Abner, will you stop saying that? Will you, please?
But in the heat of combat, rely upon each other to survive, despite the arguing and the complaining. Unlike the propaganda films that came during the war, Battleground is not afraid to show its characters question the point of the war, and allows itself to show men at both their best and their worst, and even the bravest of men having a breaking point, led by Van Johnson as Private Holly and James Whitmore as Staff Sergeant Kinney. Van Johnson had been a last-minute replacement for Baton's Robert Taylor, who had dropped out saying the role really wasn't right for him. Perhaps Taylor, who had been a naval officer during the war, was made nervous by the character. Holly is a charming chancer, a scrounger, and, although likeable, gives the impression at times he's out for himself. He is also a character who shows fear in the face of the enemy, unheard of for a leading man at the time, before overcoming it to become squad leader. Ironically, Van Johnson himself had made a career playing soldiers and sailors during the war, even though he himself, thanks to a car crash, was unfit to fight. But Van Johnson makes the role his own, and in my opinion, it's his best role until his role as Lieutenant Steve Markey 5 years later in the Caine Mutiny.
Look, Princeton, you knew from nothing about DeVries, and you know even less about Queeg. He's a tired man. His nerves are shot. It's happened before that a man loses his head after what Queeg has gone through.
While James Whitmore, in his first major screen role, would win a Golden Globe and be nominated for an Academy Award for his role as Kinney, the sergeant who keeps his platoon together.
Hey! It's shining! It's shining!
Guiding the production was director William A. Wellman. Wellman, who had directed the acclaimed wartime film The Story of G.I. Joe, was known not only for his technical innovations as a filmmaker, but had also been a decorated combat pilot during the First World War. He used this experience to his advantage, putting his cast through military training, a practice now common in filmmaking, while casting veterans from the 101st who had fought at Bastogne as extras to add to the authenticity. Wellman chose to shoot the film not on an outdoor location, which in the 40s was usually California standing in for Europe, but except for the opening and closing scenes, completely on MGM's Stage 15, allowing Wellman to control the lighting and create sequences that nearly 80 years on are still heart-stopping.
Order! 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 Action!
By the time what remains of the 3rd Platoon marches away from Bastogne, battered but not broken, you feel you understand, you know the bewilderment, the anger, the dread that troops on the ground must have felt. The madness of war, the unfair nature of it all, as characters who you want to see make it die lying in the snow, calling for their mothers. That Battleground has been sidelined in the decades that followed is a sign of its success. Louis B. Mayer, head of MGM, had objected to the film being made as he thought the public had grown tired of war movies. Instead, Battleground helped to relaunch the genre, with each film that followed trying to feel more realistic than the last, while repeating elements that at first considered groundbreaking became cliché themselves. Oscar Wilde said that imitation is the greatest form of flattery. And in the case of Battleground, that's never been more true.
That's for sure. That's for dang sure.
Battleground is available to watch on all formats. All I can say is, if you've never seen it till now, why the hell not? Go watch it.
Please, sir, I want some more. More? All right, stop it. Stop it right there. Go on, fill up the bowl.
And if you like this episode of So What Did I Think and want to see more, please click like and subscribe. Remember, always subscribe. Thanks for watching.